Hello and welcome to Ageless Rock Channel, where megalithic fans can put on megalithic lens and share megalithic sites from a different perspective. This is part 2 of Preah Khan Temple, where we can explore a little bit on the origin of this magnificent structure we know almost next to nothing. Preah Khan Temple is as strange as any megalithic sites in Cambodia or anywhere in the world. Pretty much everything about this temple is either believed to be or completely unknown and therefore open for debate. If you check the words in Khmer language in Google's Translate, you will find that Preah means God and Khan, which is from Sanskrit Kanga, means destroy. So these two words should mean God destroy by simple translation at a glance. I would think it has something to do with the wrath of God. But how come you see Preah Khan seems to be translated as sacred sword? Actually, it is incorrect to say Preah Khan is to be translated as sacred sword, but it has to do with a sacred sword. It is not just an ordinary sword. It belongs to the beginning of Cambodian royal family as far as 1200 years ago. There is a word that makes the difference. Rich in Khmer language means royal. Preah Khan Ridge is actually referring to the sacred sword of the royal family. While Preah Khan is a megalithic temple, Preah Khan Ridge is actually a sacred sword belonging to Cambodian royal family with a long history going as far as the year 802 AD during the reign of Jayavarman II. Preah Khan Ridge is a very interesting topic about the sword that went missing and switched hands between the Vietnamese, Siamese and Khmer Empire. It is even believed to be now Thailand's sword of victory. Legend says it was created by Shiva and Vishnu. Another mythical version says it was forged by Vishvakarma, the divine architect. In comparison to the Western world, Preah Khan Ridge is the equivalent of the legendary sword of Charlemagne known as Joyeuse. They are both believed to have great powers. They were essential items for coronations. Their stories began in and around 802 AD. They have lost and found stories, and they have myths and legends between the double-sided blades. Let's move on to a building called Dharmasala. Between the third and fourth enclosure on the northeast side, there is a structure known as Dharmasala, which should be translated as House of Teaching. It is also known as Agnigriha or Vahnigriha, which means House of Sacred Fire. You can also find it is connected to mean hospital. They are noted for having thick walls, a tower facing west, and windows facing south. Western archaeologists believe it was a rest house for tired pilgrims, but I highly doubt that ever took place, simply because it is an overkill for tired monks who denounce worldly things, but when it comes to sleeping, they need a super awesome polygonal stone structure. Today, tired tourists can rest under a thatched roof shelter where hammock is the best way to take a nap at West Parade. Teaching of Dharma is done through internet on tablets. If there are hundreds of pilgrims across Cambodia who needed rest 1,000 years ago, I think hammock and thatched roof is the way to go, not polygonal sandstone. In 1903, a French archaeologist by the name A. Faucher recognized that this structure was a religious monument because everything constructed with stones are for the gods. With 121 dharmasalas in Cambodia and no one knows anything, is evidence that Cambodians did not build this and they are still waiting for archaeologists to tell them what it is. I doubt any monks came to sleep here. When pilgrims are tired, they need a place to eat, sleep, and basic amenities. Kitchens, bedrooms, and washrooms are the things that come to mind. There is nothing to suggest it was a rest house for pilgrims. Even Zhou Daguan from China in 13th century wrote, he admired without knowing its purpose. At Preah Khan Temple, there is another mysterious building that no one knows anything. It is simply called the two-story building because it has two levels. From the photo, you can see that it is not just 2 stories, but it is also very big in terms of height. The pillars are extremely large columns. This building doesn't seem to have any known function. These pillars are not only large. When I zoom in, the striations seem to give a different impression that it wasn't made by someone holding chisels and chipping away 1 inch at a time. The circular blocks were stacked and then raked with a tool as if the pillars were made of clay. The entire structure has disproportionately large pillars on a platform so large it makes us wonder what could it be in ancient Angkorian times. With so many stones used and time taken to construct it, there is hardly any useful room on the inside. Today, archaeologists call it a library. I highly doubt any monk studies here. With the drill holes everywhere and no stone roof, it is hard to imagine where these two gentlemen in the photo is going to study their dharma. Typically, there should be a lot of reliefs that tell stories of Hinduism or Buddhism carved onto the walls to be called a library. The pool you see besides the two-story building is actually one of the 5 water tanks you can see from an aerial view. Archaeologists typically call these pools for the king if the structure is identified as a palace. But in reality, water tanks in megalithic sites are still a mystery, and this is one of them. It is easy to say these are pools or water tanks if there is only one, but with 3 big tanks on each quadrant and 2 small water tanks on the southeast quadrant, it feels like this water containment system has a purpose we will never know. To the south of the 2-story building is the Hall of Dancers. It sounds like there were people dancing in the hall here in ancient past. I highly doubt that ever took place because temples are not made for entertainment and Buddha doesn't need to be entertained. It is a rectangular structure with lots of pillars. The passage from East Gopura entrance runs through the building. You can see the center of the entire Preah Khan Temple. The lintels have beautifully carved devatas. They are divine celestial beings known as apsaras. The devatas are depicted as dancing, and so this rectangular structure is called Hall of Dancers. But look at the random drill holes which I consider this damage to the otherwise perfect lintels. It looks like they were drilled after the carvings were done. If you believe the unknown ancient builders created this polygonal stone temple, you will have no problem believing that these depictions were not carved but rather molded like clay. As a general conclusion for this video, I can see we know so little, it is not wrong to conclude we know nothing. Well, that's all for now, and I will explore things that don't make sense in my next video. Hope you all have a wonderful day and see you in part 3. This is Bernie Ong signing out. Lehai.